Hello, everyone. This is your host, Keri Logan at Master the Upper Rooms. And today I have a special guest. And what is so great about Chris Lippincott is his mission aligns with mine. We are both here to raise the spiritual awareness and vibration of humanity. And like most people, and I was on the same path too, as we all leave the nest and explore the world, is he first was on Wall Street. He was an analyst and he was grounded in materialism. And then one day he had this profound spiritual awakening. Well, we actually have a few first, but he had one that was super profound and an out of body experience that it just changed his life forever. And today, what he does is he works with people in how to connect to spirit, how to connect to their loved ones that have passed, and how to just educate a lot of people because all of us have spirit guides and all of us get messages all the time. It's just, do we listen? So, with that all said, and as we laugh here and smile, Chris, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Well, Carrie, thank you very much for having me on the show. I'm doing well.
Awesome, thank you. So I am so curious and fascinated, as I'm sure some other people were. What was your profound spiritual awakening and out of body experience like? Like, how was that for you?
It was definitely different than anything I had, experienced up until that point. As you mentioned, at the time I was working at Wall Street and I was grounded in materialism, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna be the next, king of the universe kind of thing. And I'm getting more and more stressed out as my job just keeps on getting more and more demanding. I'm taking out on my family and, that whole thing. And eventually I started realizing, I better start finding a way to kind of chill out because I'm just losing my mind. And I'm searching high and low. And eventually I stumbled upon this concept, which at the time was very foreign to me. I stumbled upon something called meditation, which I thought was only for gurus and people, up in the Hindu Kush somewhere. And I thought, I can't do that. I can't, that's not for me. I was like, oh wow, I could sounds kind of cool. Let me try this out. So I started listening to the audio track and I started getting hooked on the audio track. And the next thing I know, it's only for 15 minutes and I'm sitting there listening to it every day before in this meditation for 15 minutes going, oh, okay, this is nice. And I would relax before going to work. But I got so addicted to it that I wound up doing it every single day for 12 months straight. And I didn't really realize exactly what I was doing at the time, but suffice it to say that I continued to expand this meditation because it was so wonderful. By the end of that 12-month period, I'm in my man cave. Every guy has to have his man cave, right? On one weekend, Saturday morning, and I'm sitting there probably for 30 minutes. And the next thing I know, all of a sudden, in my mind's eye, I'm seeing these four spirit people, two on my left, two on my right. And for some reason, I recognized them, but I didn't know who they were. I'm like, you had that feeling where you recognize somebody, but you can't place them. I'm like, how do I know you? But I didn't know who they were. But the guy all the way on the right-hand side was the biggest, tallest, and next thing I know, he's shooting a beam of energy straight through my chest, out through my back. And at first I thought I was like dreaming, but all of a sudden I could feel it physically going through my body. I was like, whoa, I guess I'm not dreaming. And as that happened, all of a sudden I'm kind of taken out of my body. I'm up in what I could only describe as, the universe, that kind of mentality. And I start connecting to this existence where I felt like I was a thread in a giant tapestry of love that extended forever. It had no ending, no beginning. It just kept on going and going and going, and I was a piece of it. So somehow I was connected, and I started realizing this concept of unity and existence, which beforehand I never even had heard the concept. but I just kind of felt like I was part of everything all of a sudden. And I just kept on expanding. And then all of a sudden I started having these sounds coming into my awareness of somebody else. And this, it was like a telepathic sudden understanding of this voice saying, "You're perfect. You're perfect." And I'm like, "Whoa, wait a second, dude. You don't know what I've done in my life. I cannot be perfect. There's no way I'm perfect." And it just kept on coming. "You're perfect. You're perfect." And these waves of unconditional love started washing over me. I was fully accepted. I was perfect. I was unconditionally loved. I was just like, oh my God, this is like the word love I was experiencing was the other 99% of the iceberg below the water that you never see. The human word love was that 1% above the water that you can see. This was the other 99% that I had never experienced. This was like beyond any human comprehension that I'd ever had. And so I'm there for who knows how long, I don't know, 30 minutes ish. Um, I come out, I'm trying to regain my God. I'm like, whoa. I run to my desk, I write down everything. I'm still kind of out of it. I'm starting to slowly come back. And then the next thing I know, I start feeling energy around me, presences around me, voices, voices, voices around me, and all the things that I once had been experiencing as a child when I was like 6 years old. So for me, it was like the portal suddenly reopened because the time between I was six and in my whatever 30s ish, 40s ish, whatever I was, at that point, um, I had shut it all down. I said, "Oh, this is just imagination. This is just, it's illogical. I can't be a child anymore." So I kind of went on my merry logical analytical way. Well, Spirit apparently had a different idea. They reopen the portal, and I start hearing voices, and I start feeling energy around me, and that's when I started to freak out because I started thinking to myself, "Oh wait, oh my God, there are only two kind of people in the world who can hear voices, either these incredible gurus and mystics." Or crazy people. Well, I'm not a mystic or a guru. Oh my God, I'm
Right.
going crazy. Oh no.
Self-doubt. Yeah. No,
Total
yes.
self-doubt. So I really freaked out. But eventually I started, it just kept on happening, and I started going to classes, and I started realizing, oh wow, this is something that they call mediumship. And it started coming to my awareness through spirit that this wasn't for me. This was way bigger than me. This was for everybody else. I'm an instrument. I'm a vessel. I'm
Yes.
something that they're trying to use so they can get their connection to somebody else. I'm just a tool. And that was when I started to realize, I'm like, oh wow. And that's kind of when I went training. And after that, it was kind of like, the barn door got closed, and I was off to the races.
Well, it's kind of like it woke you up of how you are supposed to serve humanity.
Yeah. And at
And
the time, I was not serving humanity when I
right,
went into this. It was just the opposite. I was trying to see how much I could you drain humanity of,
right. Or take. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No,
Very, very, yeah, very, very different. It was like, going from one side of the spectrum all the way to the other side of the spectrum in the blink of an eye.
yes. And I always find these stories like so fascinating. They get me. I have to say it's like a cup of coffee for me because I just get so thrilled. So I'll share a story with you, Chris, that I heard yesterday when I was with a client, and and my husband knows me as no one can keep their secrets from me. It's just like they share. I don't know what it is. So this one man, veteran, old goat, as he called himself, stubborn old goat, he comes in, and he was here just to quit smoking, but he shared a profound spiritual experience with me where he said, I was an angry man. I hated myself. I hated everybody. I was bitter. I've been abused by both of my parents, and I was just a mess. And on a Friday night, I went on a drinking binge, and on Saturday, I just imploded and decided I was going to kill myself. So I went down to the barn, got a ladder, threw the rope over the beam and stuff. And I was ready to end it all. I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe in anything. I was nothing. I just hated everything, hated myself. And he said, my wife and son pretty much knew what I was going to do. And they, during that time when they couldn't find me, they called 911, called the police, called the fire department. Well, as I was standing there on top of that ladder, put the thing over my head, and I took that first step, everything changed. The rope came off of my neck and I floated on down. And when I went to the bottom of the cement floor, I wasn't in pain. It was like something divine and heavenly was like, no, this is not your time. And he said, everything washed away. All my anger, my hatred, my pain, my resentment. And he was just like, it was so profound that I, in that moment, was able to forgive my abusive parents.
Mm.
And when I was at the bottom there, lying there, I was completely and utterly just bathed in love. I couldn't explain it. And he said the fire department came, police came, and they took me to the hospital, put me in the psych ward, and I was fine. I was like, go ahead, I'm fine. He had him in a mental hospital. This is where it gets interesting. He went to a mental hospital for a week, and he said this one young girl kept staring at him, staring at him. And she went over to him with the nurse, sat down at the table because he was sitting outside, and the woman said, I know who you are. And he was like, just like you, what? I know who you are. Do you know who you are? And she
Wow.
put her hands out like this on the table. He took her hands and she looked him in the eyes and she said, you're Yahweh. And I looked at him and I said, yes, you are. We are all Yahweh. We just forgot our way.
Mm.
And
Interesting.
he was just like, oh my God. And so we had this whole talk where he's like, oh yeah, I became this most peaceful, calm, serene person. My wife at one moment was like, are you okay? What happened to you? And he's like, my whole life changed. He's like,
Yeah.
I now donate stuff all the time. I go to church. He was just like, and I love babies. Can't go into the store without being so excited because he's like the light in their eyes and the
Mm.
love and all that. He's
And
like,
their innocence.
their innocence. He's like, it's just amazing. And so I love hearing stories like this because it can be instant, like a snap when someone, you know, gets awakened, and it's hard to logically wrap your head around it. But you
Hmm.
know what you experienced. It reminds me of that movie Contact
Yeah.
with Jodie Foster,
Yeah.
where she was just like, no, I had this profound experience. Well, where's your proof? Where's your
Right.
evidence?
Right.
It's just you.
Exactly. And that was the biggest problem for me was when I went through the experience, having come from, a very logical, rational background, where as an analyst, I have everything proven to me before I can accept the analysis. And like because I'm like, well, there's nothing physical. There's nothing, that's why I was initially thinking I was going completely nuts. Um, And I was like, how do I analyze this? How do I explain this? What is this? There's nothing to explain it. But then suddenly, as I kept on asking and questioning and trying to figure out, uh, as Spirit always had been doing for 20 years preceding that, which I had always been ignoring. Basically, we're dropping breadcrumbs in front of me using books. They kept on like throwing all these book titles in front of me, and I was like voraciously reading all these books. But I was like, oh, this is entertaining. It wasn't entertaining. It was preparation.
Yes.
Um, but eventually, they did something else where they started throwing a lot of quantum physics my way. So I started going down the rabbit hole of quantum physics, and it was quantum physics that allowed me to bridge the gap from going from the logical, rational mind where I have to have things proven to me to finally understand what was actually happening, because quantum physics literally explains the non-physical. And
Right.
that was fascinating. I was like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yes, that's where I say science and spirituality align.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do, and it's completely amazing. It's just it's nice. So my next question is, and I'm really curious what your take is on it, is how to raise your spiritual awareness without giving up on religion, because a lot of people have given up on religion. And I'm
Oh
going to
yeah,
just say right here, I'm one of them as well,
yeah.
because I grew up in a home where my mom was raised Catholic, and I saw this woman not be able to go in a Catholic church without crying and feeling so much shame and guilt
Hmm.
about not doing her penance, not attending church on a regular basis. And then there was my father, who was a Christian. I saw him read the Bible twice a day, attend all church functions, but this is not a positive. He'd beat his wives, he's beat his kids. He was the biggest hypocrite. It was
Hmm.
just it. And so it was really challenging for me to embrace religion, because I saw so much negativity. Like the only way to be one with God, that was what I heard, was you have to read the Bible, you have to have a religion. And there's so many that say, well, no, it has to be mine. You have to be Christian, Catholic, you have to be this, you have to be that. And it's a bunch of crap.
Yeah, it is, and
So I'm
it's
just,
it, it's and that's kind of the thing. It's just like, religion has turned into this hypocritical thing. Well, it's been hypocritical from the dawn of time,
yeah,
but let's go back and define religion and spirituality. What are they? First off, let's talk about religion. Religion is an organized concept where, under organized religion, you have people that are trying to follow or idolize one person who may be a prophet, maybe an understanding or a gateway to, the creator, the populace sees as the highest power in existence. But it's under a structured, organized methodology that follows a specific doctrine and belief system, and everybody has to follow that belief system in the organization that is, provided.
right,
The higher structures. Spirituality, on the other hand, is one's individual connection to their higher power, their higher source, whatever it is that they connect to, but it's a one relationship. There's no intermediary. You don't need any other powers or any other beliefs. It's just you and your highest power, you and whatever you want to call it, source, God, Yahweh, whatever the name is, it's irrelevant. It's your individual relationship power. So those are the two definitions. Throughout history, more people have been killed in the name of religion
yeah,
than any other thing that has ever existed. So for religion to say my way is the best way makes no sense, because in what existence is a high power saying, okay, I'm going to kill all of you people in my name. That doesn't make any sense. Even though the Bible one half says that God is an angry God, the other part of the Bible says it's a loving God. Well, which is it? Make up your mind. When you connect to your higher power yourself under spirituality, you're seeking a connection of love and raising your power, raising your energy, something that's going to help you. And each person does that themselves. Say, for example, you're a parent, for example, and you've got a child who is suddenly contracts some horrible disease, and the doctors don't know what's going on. Who do you pray to? Do you pray to the priest? Do you ask, do you go up the chain of command? No, you go right to the source. Literally, you're praying to God directly, one on one. That's spirituality. That's not religion. And so that's the power. That's where we all have this power, this ability to connect directly. It's one on one. And you can go farther than that and say, everyone looks up in the sky, looking up at God. Well, God's not out there. God's in here. We are God.
Yes, we are.
And when Jesus said, I am God, he wasn't saying that he was the
Right.
recreation of God. He
Correct.
was trying to get across the concept that
Correct.
we're all God.
Correct.
Because if you look at it from going back to the quantum physics concept, everything in existence is nothing but energy. If everything in existence is nothing but energy, then so too is God.
Yep.
God is just the organized energy that brought it all together. So we are not this flesh. We're not this meat suit. We're energy. For example, let's throw a little bit of quantum physics into the picture. If you take the carbon atom and you go to the nucleus, take the nucleus and you blow up to the size of a golf ball, the electron is 2 miles away. Everything else is empty space. So when you think you're touching your finger, you're not touching your finger at all. You're actually, it's electron repulsion. What you're feeling is it's like two magnets of the same charge. They'll never touch. Your fingers will never touch. You think they are, but your energy, your God, we're all God. That's why when somebody says, there's unity consciousness, we are all connected. Yes, we are connected because we're all energy. We're all the same thing.
Yes.
And then, you can go even one step farther and hold on to your chair when you get this one. The thing that you see outside is not real. That's an illusion. That's a projection of your inner workings, of your mindset, of your world. You're creating it as you go by. So what you see is an illusion. You create that reality by yourself every second, every microsecond. You are our creator. You are the creator. You create your own reality. If that's true, then you too are a God. You too are God. We're all God. It's everywhere. What's the definition of God? Always has been, always will be. Cannot ever be destroyed, is everywhere, is omniscient. So if it's everywhere, it's in here.
Yes.
So that's the fundamental thing. And if you want to say, how can we raise our consciousness, raise our awareness, raise our spirituality without giving up our religion? Religion can be a vehicle. I mean, religion is faith. Religion gives you that source, that foundation that so many people need to go on that farther path. Because if they want to go on the one-on-one direction, that's great, but it takes a lot of individual power and direction and organization yourself, which is great. I mean, power to you. But if you want to get some help, the religion aspect kind of gives you the container and it gives you the direction. gives you the faith to organize yourself. Just know that you have the ability at any point in time to connect yourself. So if you want to have the organized faith and you want to go like go to church or go to the mosque, whatever it is, every weekend, every Sunday, or anytime you're praying, great. That gives you the structure that you need. Now that you've got the structure, now you can start to expand your spirituality from there. They do mesh, but you don't have
Yes.
to follow one or the other. They can be brought together.
Yeah, no, they can be brought together. And the way when I had I would say like my third or fourth spiritual awakening, but the last one that I had in October of not last year, but 2023, I was shown that, and this is going to sound strange, how people should, in a religious congregation, everyone take their Bible and pick out the passages that speak to you, that resonate with you, because all the other ones about the angry God and all of that, that doesn't vibrate with us anymore, because that was all about fear mongering. That was all about control.
Hmm.
That was all about
Hmm.
how to get people or try to get people to do the right thing.
Well, look at the time when were they written
Yes,
and what was the purpose they were written. The Old
yes,
Testament was literally the Old Testament written by the Hebrews to structure that culture so that they could survive. So they're like, well,
yes,
there's only one way we're going to get these people to survive. We got to create the rules, create the laws, and we got to
right.
scare them into following that. Otherwise, if they don't think that there's any after effects of their bad actions, well, then we'll lose them all.
Right, exactly. So when I was having this spiritual awakening, I was shown that how um because like when I learned about master the upper rooms, I just like you, I was mystified. And I everything just clicked into place, and I was told that no, when people align with 5D human consciousness, that is when they enter the kingdom of heaven. That is when there is heaven on earth, and you are one with your creator, one with everything else. The Christ spark within you is activated and ignited and alive. And it's all about being the essence and presence of a loving being, a person that is compassionate, accepting, that has wisdom, that is forgiving, that will unconditionally love a person. And let's be honest, Chris, not many people have experienced unconditional love.
No.
Yeah, there's so many conditions that or hoops we have to jump through. Well, I'll love you if you do this.
Right. It's
Well, I'll
human nature.
accept you more if you do that. Well, if you buy
Yeah.
me this, well then, yeah,
Right.
it's
And what's so interesting is there are a couple of instances where Jesus has come through in trance writing, and in a number of occasions in those trance writings, he was specifically talking about the divine love. And in fact, there's the pageant messages where he's talking about, he comes through in the pageant message, which I strongly recommend anybody read. They're a phenomenal read. Um, but I get off, but I digress. The divine love concept is so powerful. It goes beyond just unconditional love. It's sources divine love that if you are able to open yourself up to it, then you're freely given it. That's the
oh
great part
yes,
about it. It's not something that you have to earn.
yes.
It's Source wants to give you this. You just have to be able to open yourself enough to receive it. Once you do that, it's yours.
Yeah. And it's sort of like you create this marriage with it. So, like when we talked about religion and we talked about God, for the longest time, it was so uncomfortable for me to say the word God
Hmm.
because of all the stigma and this and that and
Oh
yada
yeah.
yada. And so I had this big epiphany because I would tell people I channel divine love.
Mm.
And that's what it told me. I'm divine love. But I had that aha moment that said to me, well, everything in the universe is masculine, feminine, and our creator is masculine and feminine. So God is the masculine side of our creator. Divine love is the feminine side of our creator. And the way that our creator went around it was, I'm going to come from a nurturing feminine energy that you're going to embrace and you're going to accept better because because I had issues with the word God,
Hmm.
but it found a way around it.
Yeah.
And then when I fully embraced divine love and was working with divine love and getting messages, and you're going to draw this and you're going to talk about this, then it finally said to me, do you realize that this has been God the whole time? And I was like, what? What?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's the funny thing. It's like, and my guides are just reminding me of this all of a sudden, is that it's only a label.
Yes.
And to your point, some labels have stigma. Some labels mean certain things to certain people, and some people are very uncomfortable with certain labels. When you peel off the label, and all of a sudden it becomes something very different. You're like,
Yes.
oh, it's not what I thought it was. Because like you, especially when I was on Wall Street, I was like, God, what are you talking about? My parents were agnostic. I grew up agnostic. I'm like, there's no
Yeah.
big man in the sky. What the heck? My son is very much that way. He's in, science focused, engineering background. So he's like, big man in the sky. So I'm like, all right, I'm not going to get in this debate with you. But it's just the word has such weight.
Yeah.
And I wonder how much of that has come from the centuries of repressive religion that
Yes.
has given us that, you know, either a bad meaning or some people embrace it, some people love it, some people love the concept of it. Others find it to be repulsion. So it's like it really kind of depends on where you come from.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to shift gears here because this is
Okay.
another topic I'm always excited about is mediumship. So
Mhm.
for me, excuse me, need my water.
Yes. Maybe there's a spirit who's suddenly scratching your throat saying, I had problems with my throat.
Exactly.
It happens to me all the
Exactly.
time.
So I'm curious, do you see them? Because only once I've seen a spirit physically in form with my eyes. The majority of the time, I see it in my mind's eye. And then I hear the person and I either see images or I get messages and all that. What is it like for you? Like
Yeah.
how is it? Because there's two different ways.
Yeah. For me, like most people, my connection with spirit is not objective clairvoyance. It's much more subjective clairvoyance, where I'm seeing it in my mind's eye.
Okay.
I'll have subjective clairaudience, where I'm hearing it in my mind's ear. I'll hear their voices, or they will play soundtracks, or it'll be clear cognizance, where all of a sudden I'm just getting this data download of information that they want me to know. And I'm like, boom, okay, well, I know X, Y, Z, and I know this, and I know that, and I know the other thing. And it just comes like this flood of information, and I just start, giving all this information because the way I work is I'm an evidential medium. So it's mostly 70 to 80% of the reading is evidence to let the sitter know that, yeah, they've got their sitter here because they want to know. So they'll get like all this evidence from spirit giving them the evidence that, hey, it's really me. Remember when we did X, Y, and Z? And, a lot of times they'll come through saying, um, I'm still alive and I can still see what you're doing, and let me give you proof of that. And so they'll start giving proof of life by saying, well, the flat tire in your green Jeep on your right-hand side in the front happened yesterday, and you were in the Jeep trying to fix the tire. And the person's like, how did you know that? I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
That was spirit. So they come through and they give that kind of information and say, well, not only am I real, not only am I here, but I'm still alive and I'm still looking at what you can do and I'm seeing all the time. And then the other 20 to 30% of the reading is the message that they want to bring. Usually it's, why are they coming through? Why are they here? What's the purpose of the reading? Is it a message of love? Is it a message of forgiveness? Is it a message of an apology quite often? So they'll give those kinds of messages that are coming through, and usually all these consolidate into either a message of healing or a message of love, and it's really a transformational love, that final connection between the sitter and the spirit. It's like they suddenly know that they're okay. They suddenly know that they're still with them, because spirit knows what we're feeling, knows what we're thinking, because it's nothing but energy.
Right.
Energy is a thought is nothing but an energy signal going out. So because they're non-physical, their energy, they're receiving the signals just as like you're sending them out. So they know what you're thinking, they know what you're feeling, they can hear what you're saying, and quite often they're around you, they're with you. And if you're connecting with them and you're really wanting to hear from them, they'll connect with you, because what they always do is they always meet the greatest need. They're not going to come by and say, hey, guess what? You've got, the lottery ticket that you bought. Well, here are the numbers for the lottery coming up. I mean, that just doesn't happen. That's
Right.
not by design. It's by design. They're not going to do that. Nor are they going to come through and say, well, here's your future, and this is exactly what you should do, because that's what's going to happen. So you should avoid doing this, that, and the other thing. Spirit is not allowed to interfere in our lives, because that would be interfering in our free will. So they don't get involved with that. So when I connect, it's very much of a feeling. Remember earlier I was talking to you about the energy, right? I was
Right.
feeling the energy coming wrapping around me. So what they do is I'll know they're with me when I feel what I term sort of a high vibration energy blanket that wraps around my upper arms and kind of wraps around me like this. So I'm like, ooh, I can feel them. And the closer that is, the higher the vibration, the tighter the blanket, the more they're blending with me. And I'm just like, oh, this is phenomenal. And quite often, I'd say most of the time, as part of their evidence, what they'll do is they will let me know how they transitioned. I'll feel like my heart, like having my heart squeezing and turning. I'm like, whoa, that doesn't feel good. Or I'll feel a pain in my stomach. Or like when you were coughing, I'll start to have an itch in my throat. I'm like, they were intubated. I know they were intubated, and there was a problem, and they're letting me know. And sometimes they'll show me themselves in the hospital, or they'll show me themselves at home in their bed, because they're basically ready to transition. They'll show me, and a lot of times they give me like remote viewing. They'll kind of show me some of their favorite rooms. They'll kind of walk me through the house. They'll walk me through the bedroom. And it's them trying to say, here's my life. Here's what I did. You'll remember me like this. And so what they'll do is, the person could have been gone for a good 10, 20 years, but they'll come through the way they were back then. So you'll remember them the way they were back then. Not like, oh, this is what it is now. They do come through and quite often and say, here's what my life is like now. And they'll, at the end of the reading, they'll kind of give me this feeling of, like a wash over relaxation, calm. Sometimes he'll give me an image of like somebody um, on a canoe floating down a slow stream, kick back like this. There was one time um, I can remember I was doing a reading for two sisters, and their dad came through, and at the end of the reading, he's showing me this Italian villa with like a stone floor, and you go out the front door, and there's a stone porch and a stone patico or overhang with stone pillars, and on the stone pillars were these vines wrapping around the stone pillars, and just beyond that were all these, I guess, olive trees or tall evergreens, tall thin evergreens. And as I'm describing all of this, the sister's like, oh my God, that's our dad's villa in Italy. That was his favorite house. That's the place he always wanted to go to. I'm like, well, guess what? That's what they do. They in their mind, they create their favorite place. I mean, they can create anything they want because it's their mind. It's what we can do. We just don't realize that we can do it because we're so limited here in the physical.
Well, they've done studies, and I know I've shared this before. So listeners, please excuse me for repeating this. They've done studies where they had people, half the people sit on the couch and visualize in their mind that they're lifting weights, just curling their biceps, building muscle mass. And then they had the other half go to the gym and actually do it.
Hmm.
Well, the ones that visualized it did increase muscle mass.
Yeah.
And I have another website and another YouTube channel called Empowered Within, and I shared how I use the power of my mind to get the exact score I needed on a state test.
Yeah.
And I was told that it was impossible to do it, but I kept seeing myself in that room, in front of the computer monitor telling me, congratulations, you got a score of 86.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah.
I literally
And
got a score of 86.
and that's yeah, that's the perfect example of I forget the name. It's heterogenic training, I think it's called. That was perfected by the East German Olympic team back in the 70s, I think, where they literally had the East German team going through these exercises, and they were told to envision their bodies running the 100-meter
Yep.
dash. And they would study them, and as they envisioned it, their muscles started to fire all over their body as if they were literally running the 100-meter dash. And then they said, great, do it faster. And so they would think themselves doing it faster. And so that's how they won per capita the highest number of gold medals that I mean Olympics had seen in years.
Yeah, I don't think you know this about me, but I'm a hypnotherapist. I've been doing this for over 20 years, been voted the best for the past 14 consecutive years in my area. And I love doing sports performance. I've
Yeah.
helped people in gymnastics, in basketball, with golf, with darts, boxing. I mean, all kinds, even like performance, being on stage, guitar
Yeah.
performance, and getting them to imagine that, literally see themselves doing it. And then they do.
Yeah.
They
It's the
completely,
power of the mind.
everything, yeah,
Absolutely.
everything lines up and they get congruent, and it's amazing.
And
It
that's the manifestation. That's the law of attraction. Everybody says, "Oh,
Yes,
you can't do that." Well, yeah, you're right. You if you think you can't do it, you're right. You can't
right.
do it. But as Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or whether you think you cannot, either way, you're right.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you for sharing about your mediumship, because I remember one time, and this is kind of a funny story, is I was working with this young woman to quit smoking, and before she was leaving my office, I saw her grandfather in my mind's eye with his hand on the door like this.
Hmm.
She can't leave. And I was like, no. Okay, what do you want? And he said, you need to tell her to stop telling the family members that she can see me and her grandma because they all make fun of her and they think she's crazy. You need to tell her to stop because it makes her feel bad about herself and cry. And so I looked at her and I'm like, okay, I got to tell you this. Your grandfather's here. Da, da, da. And then the grandma pops in. Okay, now your grandma's here.
Yep.
Told her the message and she starts crying. She's like, oh my
Oh,
God, how'd you know that? They do. They tease me all the time. And then they're telling me when she doubts herself to hold this stuffed animal that they gave her. It
oh,
was like a little teddy bear, and they were just showing me and describing. She's like, "Oh my God, I do. That's by my bed." And
oh,
I'm just like, "Yes. Okay. So when you need comfort, hold that. And they want you to know that's them holding you
yeah,
and loving you.
exactly.
Because that's the hard part is we are physical beings, but having a spiritual experience. And we need something physically to touch to
Yeah,
feel like it's real. And so I said, and they were telling me, have her use that stuffed animal. That's the closest physical connection she can have because we're just in spirit form now. We're just energy.
yeah. And that's what's so interesting because in reality, we are truly spiritual beings having a human
Yes,
experience.
we are.
Not necessarily, yeah. So that's the biggest thing. And that's the total mindset shift because everybody thinks, okay, well, I can feel my hand, so therefore I've got to be physical. But I'm just doing yoga, so I'm having a spiritual experience. It's actually the other way around. We are spiritual beings coming into a physical shell, having
Yes.
that physical human experience and learning from it. And so we're bringing up all these lessons that we're learning as we go through this human earth school that
Yes.
we wonder why are we having these lessons? Well, we kind of forgot all the lessons we wanted to learn.
Yes. Well, because then it's like it wouldn't be a surprise or a mystery.
Yeah. Well, the example I use is since this is a school, if we remembered all the lessons we were here to learn, it would be like the teacher giving you the answers to the quiz and you'd
Correct.
never learn. What's the point of having the quiz if you already know all the answers?
Yes. And so a lot of times, instead of, let's say, cursing God or being mad at God and angry at God and saying, why did you forsake me? Why are you doing this to me? All of that, look at it is, what do I need to learn?
Hmm. Yeah.
What am I being so blind about that I can't see what the answer is? And a lot of times I say, give me a sign that is so clear I can't mistake it.
Yeah.
Help me. And so it's kind of flipping around your perspective
Right.
and your
100%.
mindset instead of being stuck in blame and anger and all of that. Rise up and be like, I need the understanding. I
Yeah.
need the wisdom. How
Take
can I
control.
forgive this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely, and that's kind of the great thing is, even go a couple of steps beyond that. First maybe realize that the person who cut you off in traffic, and rather than swearing and yelling at them, saying, if this keeps on happening, which it probably does, this
Yeah.
may be you actually having the experience that you were designed to have to teach you patience. Think of all the themes that you constantly are having, all these experiences, put them into categories and start saying, what are these categories I'm constantly experiencing? Am I, having problems with frustration? Am I having problems with forgiveness? Am I having problems with impatience? What
Yeah.
are they? And you'll start to notice that there's these patterns, these themes. And you'll start to say, oh, these are the lessons I'm supposed to be learning. So the next time you have them, you're like, oh, okay, that's a lesson. Thank you. And that's the key. When you start saying thank you for the
Thank
lesson,
you. Gratitude.
gratitude, that's when the world changes. You become a completely different person by that point.
Well, and another way to look at it is when you keep getting cut off and cut off and cut off, you got to stop because everything's a mirror projection. Ask yourself, how have I been cutting myself off?
Yes.
Have I not been setting healthy boundaries with someone that oversteps me all the time and I'm not speaking my truth? How am
Yeah.
I cutting myself off by stuck in addictive behaviors or in a habit pattern that's dysfunctional and I know I need to cut it off, but I haven't cut it off.
Yeah.
There's so
Another
many
way.
ways we
Oh, yeah.
can look at it.
Yeah, there's another way that you can look at it even one step farther than that is that if something happens to you, like you're getting cut off or, somebody is being obnoxious to you or whatever it is, start realizing that what you think you're seeing goes back to the illusion. It's not really happening. What you're actually seeing is a projection of you. So start thinking, oh, that's me. I forgive myself,
Yes,
forgive them, and by forgiving them, you're literally forgiving yourself. And that's forgiveness, that's gratitude. And you start creating all these positive, beneficial emotions and vibrations and energy, and you just start to feel better all the way around. Wouldn't you feel better to say, I forgive you, or I'm sorry, or, gratitude, rather than getting angry and frustrated and mad? Which one would you rather have?
exactly. Well, and sometimes too, it boils down to there's that saying, when you bless someone else, you bless yourself.
Yes. And that's,
And maybe that's what that person needs
yeah,
is your blessing, your forgiveness, your acceptance, your compassion, your patience. Maybe that's what
yeah,
that person needs. Because,
right.
like, when I go back to that story I shared earlier of the man that was floating down, I said to him, because that was the message I got, was your wife's and your son's prayers were answered
Yeah,
like that.
boom, like that.
Boom, like that, because you gave up on everything, but they didn't give up on you. And
And
God
then
didn't
here,
give up on you. And there's an
and then,
amazing book. I don't know if you know this one. Oh, love this book.
oh, that's great. It looks great. Yeah.
I I bought this book was published in 1987 and I read it when I was in 1987 when I just graduated. I graduated in 86 and I was in college and I was reading that book and I was guided to pick it up again, and I only got to page 7, and everything she wrote in there, I was like, yes, 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 yes,
Oh yeah. Yeah,
yes,
and when you're experiencing these things, you can also then begin to think, okay, since we are all interconnected, we are all connected as one. That's when you're forgiving somebody else, you are forgiving yourself. And then you can go back into quantum physics if you don't even believe that concept. Just start going into quantum physics and realizing we're all from the same star system. We're all from the
yep,
same dust. We're all made of the same stuff. We are the same people. We are the same energy. You are creating your own illusion. So what you see out there is not really somebody else, it's you.
yeah, yeah.
So
I have
realize that.
just, I've loved this whole conversation, Chris. You and I could just talk for hours.
Oh, I know. This can go on forever.
It could, but I so appreciate you, and I appreciate meeting like-minded people and people like yourself that is a lighthouse to this world and just shining your light out and when people are ready, they know where you are. So with that said, how can people find you? I know you're on YouTube, you're on Facebook, you have your own website, you even have your own podcast. Just tell us about.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if people want to hear more about, what we've been talking about, my podcast, Spirits Beside Us, that's the podcast that continues our conversation. So if you want to keep on hearing the same thing, listen to that podcast. If you want to reach out to me, ask me questions, you can reach me by email, chris@montclairmedium.com. That's my email address, and montclairmedium.com is my website, and I'm at Facebook and everywhere else. So, you can get me all there.
Awesome. Awesome. And I'm going to create a blog post for you. I don't think I shared this because we skipped the meet and greet, but I do create a blog post with all your social media links and information and stuff. There's another way people can get a hold of you. So
Great.
many blessings to you. I'm so
Well,
excited,
many
Chris.
blessings to you as well.
Yes, and
Thank-
Happy New Year.
Oh, and Happy New Year. And hopefully we'll have more enlightened souls joining up and seeing themselves light up as well.
I am ready for that. I
Yes,
I, I
indeed.
truly am. Okay. Well, you have a fantastic rest of your day, Chris, and you take care.
Well, thank you, and you
Okay.
too.
All right.